Hello, this is Mike from Marlin Financial Advisors. Today, I want to talk as briefly as possible as I can about income portfolios, constructing them, and then the main theory behind them, and kind of the give and take between different pieces of your portfolio. Obviously, income portfolios are great for retirees that don't want to take from principal. They're great for people that are retiring super early, and so there's a lot of associated risk with having such a long time frame left, or maybe, in case you've inherited some money and you want to be able to take from it and have the principal still grow and have some sort of simple to understand basis for it. So, but I'll talk about that some other time. So the basic characteristics, there's three characteristics for each investment in your income portfolio, and they each are inversely related, right? So there's income, how much current income you want. There's growth, which is the growth of income or the growth of the portfolio value over time. And then there's this stability of income, and I'll shorten that word to risk in the future. But it's the stability of income. We don't care about what, or I don't care about what the portfolio value is doing to a certain extent. If I can live on the income it produces, then I'm fine, right? I'm talking about a market crash. I'm not talking about different funds where your portfolio eventually goes to zero. I'm talking about, the market's down, and so, it's down 20 or 30%. So the portfolio is down, but it's still producing a good amount of income I can live off of. So I'm fine. That's what I'm talking about. The portfolio will bounce back. We don't have to worry about the ups and downs of the portfolio quite as much as the stability of the income. And so as you increase, you'll find with these different investment options, as you increase one, something might go down, right? So it's kind of a give and take. It's a tug of war between what you want. And so how do we build this, or how do I build this for clients? Is you start with your goals, and you start with your risk tolerance, or kind of what you want the portfolio to do and what you're comfortable with. And then based on that, that'll lean you towards here or here or here, or you'll find a spot in the middle somewhere. And then that depends on what investments you have. And your investments, it's not, you don't go all in on one investment. You're obviously going to have a blend of investments and a blend of goals. And so it's the total portfolio where it leans, right? So maybe you are someone where you're not spending a lot of money. Like over here, you're not spending a lot of money, and so you want your portfolio to grow as much as possible because you want to give it to your heirs. You want to start like some sort of endowment or something like that, right? Where it'll go on for perpetuity. Then growth matters. If you're retiring super early, say 45, growth will probably matter because you have 45, 50 years of life left. So you're going to want the portfolio to grow and produce you future income, right? The future income benefit becomes much more powerful than, let's say, an 80-year-old. An 80-year-old's probably going to want more income and stability of that income, right? They don't want to have to fuss around when the market drops or different things like that. They just want to know that they're set. Inflation's not going to be as big of a deal. This keeping up with inflation, which is kind of the growth piece, isn't going to be as big of a deal. And I'm going to show you the portfolio pieces. Obviously, there's other investments that can work in with your financial plan, but I'm just specifically saying, let's build an income portfolio, and let's talk about this dichotomy. That's the correct word, between these relationships, the relationships between these three pieces. So yeah, start with your goals and figure out where maybe you want to be here. Current income, growth, which will eventually lead to future income. So do you want your future income to grow a lot? Some people don't care about future income growing a lot. They just want to retire. So they're focused on income and maybe stability, different things like that. All right, let me show you three examples as quickly as I can. I'm not going to show you the data behind it, so please look these up on your own. Obviously, none of this is investment advice. You have to understand what you're doing before you you do anything with your portfolio. I understand that, but I'm going to try to give you some generalizations of how these factors play into each other. So I'm going to generalize the income of these portfolios. I kind of have the three metrics here, and then we're going to rank them 1 through 5. Growth is how well it grows or keeps up with inflation. Income is just going to be its current dividend yield. So I believe Treasuries, like the 7 to 10 years, they're making about 4.2 to 4.4. I'm gonna be generous and say 4.4. Somewhere in that zone, 4.2 to 4.4. Actually, let's go 4.2. XLU 3 point, I believe it was like 3.36, and VYM is 3.4. And these are percentages. These are their current dividend yields. Obviously, with a Treasury, this is like guaranteed by the U.S. government. Obviously, Treasuries inherently have risk, but unless you think the U.S. government's going down anytime soon, and let's say, for example, it's a 10-year, just for example, then it's going to pay you 4.2% for 10 years, and then at the end, you get your principal back, okay? So with doing that, you have extremely low risk, so your risk score is very high. Your stability of income, which is this risk piece, right? Stability of income. It's this risk piece, very high. So it's a 5 out of 5. Okay. The problem is you sacrifice completely. Whoop, drop a pen. You sacrifice completely on the growth side. So we're getting a 1 out of 5 for the growth side. Doesn't keep up with inflation, doesn't move at all, which can be good and bad, right? So this is more focused. This investment here is more focused towards the income side and the stability of income. But it has no growth potential. At the end of the 10 years, you're going to receive your 10-year Treasury note, and it's going to be the same. If you put in 100,000, it's going to give you 100,000 back. If inflation's really low, then maybe that's not that bad. It won't feel that bad. But if inflation's really high over 10 years, then 100,000 might feel like 50,000. Well, probably not 50, more like 80,000 in 10 years or something along those lines, right? So that's whoops. Jeez, I do a lot. That's one of the issues. XLU, which is a fund that invests in utilities. Okay, all of these options are low cost. They're not going to cost you an arm and leg to get into them, and anyone can access them through like a self-directed brokerage account. Nothing special here. All passively managed, because that's what I like. So that's what I'm going to show you here. It tracks the utility sector of the U.S. economy. There's you don't have to do XLU specifically, but geez, what am I doing here? There are other funds that track I know Vanguard has one that's a different fund, but it tracks the same thing, similar income. This is just an example. Now, why is utilities up here? So utility sector is unique because everyone needs utilities, even during a market crash. So the dividends are extremely stable. Okay. So the stability of dividends, we know it's paying 3.36 right now. It'll fluctuate. Sometimes it'll pay more towards 3. Sometimes it's up here higher, like this. Stability of dividends is great. It's a 4. It dropped, I believe, like 2% or 5% in 08. You can look it up. I use Portfolio Visualizer, but I'm not going to pull it now because for time concerns. But it dropped like 2 or 5% for 1 year in 08. I think it was actually 09, like a year or two after, and then ever since it's gone up or been flat, right? So your confidence in that dividend is extremely high. So I'm going to give it a 4, right? So not that great of income. I mean, it's okay, but if we think we're trying to do 4%, well, it's not quite at 4%, but the stability is great. And the growth potential is good too. Over that time period, I think it was from 06, it did beat inflation like by 0.5%. So it keeps up with inflation. And I'm gonna give it a 4. Because it does keep up with inflation, and it did. Typically, what you're going to get out of this is you're going to get income of this amount. You're going to get really stable, and you're going to keep up with inflation. It did outpace inflation slightly, so I'm going to give it a 4 instead of a 3. If it just kept up with inflation, I'd give it a 3. But great investment for people. Great structure for what a lot of retirees are looking for. Something that keeps up with inflation, keeps paying you good income. Now the income's a little lacking, so it's not like a this can be the only piece of your portfolio, but I really, really like it. And obviously, as I've said before, the portfolio piece, you're going to have multiple pieces to the portfolio. You're not going to go all in on one of these options, but I want to show you 3 different options so you understand the differences. VYM is from Vanguard. It's a dividend growth model. So it's looking to provide dividends and growth on those dividends. It's paying about 3.4%. So the growth characteristics is the highest. It's 5 because it's outpaced inflation by quite a bit even after dividends. I think it was like 2 to 3%. So here, this is where you can really grow your nest egg or your funds, and you still get a decent dividend, and your dividend will increase. I think since 2012, the dividend has doubled, ignoring inflation. So obviously inflation has eaten away a little bit of that, but it's doubled, right? And that was during one of the best bull markets in U.S. history. So, take that with a grain of salt. But it shows the power of this growth if you have growth in your portfolio. Now, growth is probably going to hurt you when 08 turns around or the 2000s turn around, because they're not going to do as well. These type of instruments will do better. So that's why you kind of need a balance between the two, between growth. But it also depends on your objectives, of course. Risk-wise, it went down about dividends. Now, the fund dropped 50% like the market did in 08, but the dividend was only down 25% in 08, and it took 3 years to recover. And you can look up this information on your own, so don't take this as advice. Numbers aren't extremely exact, but I'm doing this just to save time here. And any of the I would argue this is the stand-in, the fund I brought in. There's SCHD, there's HDV, they're all a little different. But because this has been around since before 08, that's why I use this fund, because I like to see, okay, dividends only dropped 25%. What's that like? So stability of dividend, it's still pretty good. I mean, worst financial recession we've seen, and only dropping 25% dividend. I don't mind that too much. Now, obviously, you saw this didn't change at all, and that dropped 2 to 7%. So I can't remember the number exactly. That's why I'm telling you 2 to 7% drop. So you can kind of compare these two. Ooh, stability. I think it still has good stability. Why do I say that? Why do I say that? Because if the worst case scenario is it drops 25%, which we have no idea what the future's going to hold, right? So don't hold me to anything. But I'm thinking, okay, 08's the worst thing that's ever happened to us, and it's only dropped 25%. That's pretty decent, okay? And that's what you get from these dividends, is you find out the value of the fund or the value of the stock market will go down, but the dividends don't go down as much. That's why I like income portfolios in general. That's one of the base tenets of it. But it rebounded in 3 years. I really like that. And ever since, it's been very stable. So in good times it'll be very stable. And then if we hit a recession here, maybe it's flat for a couple years, maybe it's slightly down, but only going down 25% in the worst crisis ever. I like that, especially if you blend it with all of these, right? Your whole portfolio is not going down by 25%, but only a piece, even if you did a third in each or something like that. Okay, but here you can see kind of the trade-offs, right? More growth, sacrifice a little bit in income and a little bit on stability here. Comparing to XL utility sectors ETF, you get less growth, same dividend, but then you get much more stability. And maybe this is either a 3 or a 2. But you can kind of see how as you move one side moves. And obviously here, the best stability in dividend and more income, but you take away everything from growth here. So remember, you're not going to do one piece is going to be your whole portfolio. You're going to have multiple pieces. There's obviously more pieces than this. And that depends on your goals and your financial situation. Unfortunately, it's not this simple, but I just wanted to give you a really brief, like, what's the theory behind it, and it has to do with these three pieces. So hopefully that can help you for yourself. And if you have any questions, as always, let me know. But take care.